Ever have times when you feel anxiety creep up? Well, if so, you'll want to tune into today's video as I'm sharing ways to cope with having anxiety and my own experience of living with it. Hey, High Vibes Nation! Welcome back to another video. I'm Mandy, life cheerleader, and I help others raise their vibration. I feel happy to have y'all joining me for today's video on a topic that really hits close to home, anxiety. Today's video is not the normal format that I usually roll with. And just to be honest with you guys, I really didn't feel like, with everything going on in our world right now, to create the same kind of video that I normally do. The impact of COVID-19 and George Floyd, bless his heart and soul, the riots and just everything that's going on right now, it really has had an intense impact on me, and I'm sure so many of you out there watching as well have felt that same intensity. So that's really what has inspired me to create this video today. I always want to keep it real and be transparent and authentic with y'all. I've been feeling triggered lately with my anxiety, and I felt like the only right thing to do was to speak up and to share with you guys about it. As someone who's dealt with many challenges in my life, including anxiety, I'm certainly no stranger when it comes to facing the harsh realities and also the intense pain that can come from them. I think it's really important for me to be honest with y'all, as especially with social media, it can really just be a highlight reel of all of the happy moments, and I know definitely I can be guilty of this at times. With that, though, there can be a lack or imbalance of the other side of reality, the sad or uncomfortable things that we experience that make a dramatic impact and leave an imprint on us forever. The things that many of us feel guilty or ashamed of omitting from our perfectly curated feeds. Hence why I wanted to bring a light to this topic with you guys today. So for those of you who are watching who do also suffer from anxiety, you'll understand when I explain the following. And for those of you who don't, please just bear in mind that this is my own experience that I'm sharing from my heart. And, I'm just trying to educate any of y'all out there who may not actually have anxiety as to how it feels when you actually do experience it from a mental and physiological way. So when anxiety starts to come on, it feels like a wave. That would be kind of how I would describe it. It can definitely at times feel like it hits you, but at the same time, there can be experiences or situations where it kind of just starts to start to roll in slowly and progressively get worse. And if I could describe it as anything, I like using this ocean or water metaphor, because I love nature, and I think it's a beautiful way to actually express and explain what that sensation is like. It can at times feel basically like you're drowning if you're going through an anxiety attack. And when I talk about this kind of wave effect, picture having all of your thoughts kind of like flood in and basically have your mind just be intensely active and anxious at the same time, and it just keeps coming and coming and coming. Almost again, picture just feeling that sensation when you can't breathe, like you're drowning. That's really, in essence, what it feels like, at least for myself, and I'm sure a lot of you can resonate out there who have it as well, can resonate with that kind of metaphor to explain what it feels like. And oftentimes when you're experiencing anxiety, it typically is because you're focused on the future, you're worried, you're incredibly intensely worried, but it's not like a normal type of, rational worry. It's it takes it to a whole next level of worriedness about a future event, something, happening, or you're very, very concentrated on something that has happened to you and that is part of your past. Of course, there are times it's all about present moment awareness. That's actually one of what I want to talk to you guys about today. In part of coping with it is really being present in your body, present in the moment, because that can really have a dramatic positive effect on dealing with it. But just so you guys get a sense of, the way in which it can feel when someone's experiencing it, if you don't suffer yourself out there from it. And the thing about anxiety, and the reason why I want to bring this to light as well, is because I understand the frustration it can feel like to have it, basically at times feel like it is such a big part of your life. It can feel so dismotivating. It can feel so discouraging if you're dealing with it and going through it. And also, inevitably, there are even times when it can feel like incredibly debilitating. And y'all know how much I care about and love y'all out there. And if anyone's experiencing any of these feelings, please know, not only myself, but there's so many other people who are dealing with this. And I think with the onset of everything that we're experiencing as a conscious collective out there, so many more of us are feeling more intense emotions and intense stress, intense even anxiety. So it's really important to just bring a light to what a lot of us are going through right now. So here's the thing, guys. When it comes to anxiety, you really can't think your way out of it. It's not the type of thing that you can just logically think your way out of it. You really have to feel it in order to heal it. And that's kind of the biggest message I want you guys to take away from today. And that's why I developed, the following techniques and strategies that I want to share with you, because they've had such a positive impact on me. That being said, of course, I am not a medical doctor, so for liability's sake, if you're going to start anything or change anything that you're doing, please do consult a medical doctor or professional before you do so. And also, I really want to stress, no pun intended, that even though the following techniques are ways that I've been able to get a hold of and cope with having my own anxiety issues, they might not be enough for everyone. And if any of y'all are watching out there and you either have sought external help, such as, a psychologist or a counselor or someone else who is another type of professional, it is okay. And if you're on pharmaceuticals for anxiety, that is totally okay too. I want this to be a no judgment zone, because anytime we're dealing with something or talking about or having a conversation around mental health, there is no one size fits all solution. In fact, a lot of times it takes a number of different healing techniques to actually figure out what the solution might be for you or someone you know. So I don't want any of y'all watching to feel judged in any way, or that there is a right or wrong way to go about handling or getting a cope on your or someone else you know's anxiety, because there isn't. The following are just merely suggestions from my own experience, my own journey dealing with it. And if they can help some of you, or you can even share them with other people who are dealing with severe stress and anxiety out there, then I would just be grateful that you share them and maybe help them deal with it. But please know that this is just, a small list of many different techniques that you can use to help you or someone you know with anxiety. So that being said, please take the following suggestions only coming from my heart and from a pure and positive place, and also just with the only intention of helping either y'all who are suffering from anxiety out there, or for those who are as well. So before we get right into it, first off, I just want to say absolute gratitude for you joining me for today's video. If you guys like it, please do give it a little thumbs up, please subscribe to my channel, and make sure you hit that little notification bell so you'll be informed each and every time I upload new videos. And I have tons and tons coming up for you guys, maybe even some more vlog style, to be honest. I'm feeling really creative and inspired right now to just share and open up about really important topics and have these kind of tough, conscious conversations. So if that's the case, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell, because you don't want to miss it. And be sure to watch till the end of this video, as I'll be making a special announcement that you won't want to miss, so stay tuned till the end. Okay, let's dive deeper starting now. All right, to kick things off with techniques that can help to curb having anxiety, the first one for me, and this is kind of in my own experience, the best way that I've been able to handle having anxiety or having, those crazy stressful moments is really just going back to basics. So what do I mean by this? What I mean is having a routine, a daily routine that you can stick to with 4 main areas that you're covering. These would be getting enough sleep and adequate, good rest, eating properly and having a really healthy diet, also moving and making sure that you're getting enough physical activity, and last but certainly not least, that you are having a routine around breathing. Like, deep breathing can make a huge difference. The other thing I would add to sort of these 4, and it kind of goes along with the eating, is also making sure that you're just drinking enough water, because that in itself can also contribute to feeling more stressed out if you're dehydrated. So those 4 would be, I know it sounds very basic, but I'm sure even if you don't have anxiety, having a balance of those kind of 4 main things in your life, getting those down pat first and foremost will really lay a solid foundation for allowing you to then move on to implementing even more techniques to help you. But if these 4 are not really on a solid routine right now, I've found in my own experience that if I don't have a daily routine that allows me those 4 main things, that I feel way more apt to be stressed out and to also feel way more anxious and way more like nervy about things that are going on or that are coming up in my life. So from there are a lot of other techniques that I'm about to share with you guys that I have implemented to help me curb my anxiety. So one thing that I have found to really help me with my anxiety and my anxious thoughts is music. Now, music can look like listening to music. It can look like playing a musical instrument. It can be you singing, or just other types of sounds around you in your environment that you find can calm you down. And for each of us, we have different sounds that do that. And having grown up in a really musical family, I know I brought this up with you guys before. My father is a musician. He's also a psychotherapist. So you can only imagine the conversations we have around anxiety at our house. But my dad actually does use music therapy in his practice. And that's one of the reasons why I've become so much more aware of the direct impact that music and sound in general can have on curbing anxiety in particular. Now, what that could look like for some of you, and I know for myself, sometimes if I'm feeling more stressed out or I'm feeling like anxiety come on or anxious thoughts happen, I will put certain songs on or certain sounds on that are just known to me already. They've been imprinted in sort of that internal DNA, what have you, that really just bring my energy. It elevates and uplifts me in a positive way, but it also de-stresses and lets me relax a little bit. So there's one for you guys. Music can really have a positive impact. So another technique that's made a world of difference to helping me cope with having anxiety is getting enough fresh air, and I will add in there enough sunshine. You heard me, vitamin D. Now, if you live in a climate or you're living somewhere where you're not getting, adequate amounts of vitamin D, I would highly, highly recommend taking a vitamin D supplement. And I'm sure a lot of y'all watching out there have heard of seasonal, depression, and it's not for no reason. It's because your body naturally does need vitamin D. I think it's good if you can get the natural form of it, the most natural form, which is actual sunshine, and mixing that with, just fresh air in general. I can't tell you the number of times when I've started to feel stressed out, or I've started to feel those anxious thoughts coming on, and literally just going outside and taking a walk literally puts me in a completely different state. And it doesn't have to be that you have to mix it with physical activity, but to me, like, mixing the two and having the sun shining down on you, so like the fresh air, the sunshine, and like moving your body, that all together is therapy. Like, holy smokes, it is literally a game changer, especially when I'm feeling like extra stressed out. So that would be another tip for you guys. So if y'all have been watching my videos for a while now, y'all know how much I am a huge fan and proponent of natural medicine and natural therapies. And one technique, I should say, that has made a really big difference in my moods and curbing my anxiety is using herbal supplements. And I'm not going to suggest any brands at this point for you guys. I will put some links below for products that I use, but for me, it's more important to just let you guys have the solid information that I can give to you, and then you can do research on your own and figure out, if these are things that could potentially help you as well. So some of the herbs that have made the biggest difference for me, or that I'm also aware of that have made a huge positive impact for others dealing with anxiety, are omega-3s. And those can come in a variety of, foods and pill forms. Also, a big one for me has been ashwagandha. Now, that is a very popular herb in Ayurvedic medicine, and that has made a really big positive impact, I know, on my personal mood. Rhodiola is another one. Another really popular and good one is Siberian ginseng. Same with lavender. Lavender has very relaxing properties, so it can help to, just chill you out a little bit. Lion's mane is another one. That one is, that could be very good for focus in particular. The other ones that I wanted to share with you guys are microdosing with medicinal mushrooms. Now, I know some of y'all, there might be some controversy out there with this one, but microdosing with mushrooms in general, it doesn't just have to be, mushrooms to get you high, but things like reishi and other forms of natural herbs that are coming from mushrooms can have really amazing effects. And I've read actually a number of studies where people have actually microdosed with the same kind of shrooms, as people call them, to get high off of. But when you microdose, it's such an incremental amount that it kind of just can help to kind of curb that little edge for you of feeling like those anxious thoughts starting to kick in. So that's another thing. And last, I do want to mention this again, some people, it's for them, for others, it might actually make symptoms worse. So again, you have to experiment and really just research and work with things and figure out what works best for you guys. But one thing that does help some people out there who are dealing with anxiety is CBD. And that can come, it's a very popular thing right now. CBD seems to be a hot topic for a lot of people. And again, it's all about just trying it out. Maybe it'll work for you, maybe it won't, but just be open to all these different things, because you never know what you might stumble upon that could literally change your life in terms of dealing with anxiety. So another huge thing that I did mention earlier in terms of techniques that can help your anxiety is food. And I know I mentioned, getting on a proper eating schedule, but it's not just a matter of, eating 3 square meals a day and having some snacks in there, or, intermittent fasting or anything like that. The actual foods that you're eating, and I've talked about this before with you guys about good mood foods, is because it literally, what I have decided to eat for my diet has changed my life in terms of my mood. Eating a healthy diet full of nutrient-dense foods literally has played a huge factor in my anxiety and the degree in which I'm actually experiencing it. One thing that I actually have found that has had an adverse effect, so basically one thing that I am really hyper aware of in terms of my diet that I actually know makes me feel more anxious, and therefore I try to cut it out or avoid it as much as possible, is refined sugar. When I eat or have too much refined sugar in my diet, I actually do end up feeling more stressed out, and I don't feel my best. So that's one thing personally that I have found cutting back or cutting out has had a really positive impact on dealing with my anxiety symptoms. Other things that have had a positive impact in terms of diet are taking collagen daily, and I usually take it in the morning and at night. I'll put a link below to the collagen that I prefer taking, and it's just a really high source of collagen. Healthy fats. I know I mentioned omega-3s before. Now, it doesn't matter if you are vegan, vegetarian, or if you're not. There are lots of different foods that you can get really healthy, good sources of omega-3s from, so that's definitely something you'll want to check out. Another thing to take into consideration when it comes to diet and how it affects our, mental brain health is to really become, your own investigator in terms of where the products you're consuming are coming from. Like, what source are you getting these foods from? Now, if you happen to be someone who consumes meat, all good. It's just a matter of knowing, like, where is that meat coming from? Because one thing for sure, and this is a complete fact, is that if you're eating meat that is sourced where they have been fed grain versus grass, a lot of times those animals will have inflammation in their body. And what happens is that when they go to process that meat, that inflammation will then transfer from the animal to you if you happen to buy meat that is coming from grain-fed animals. And what happens when we consume things that have inflammation in them, they then come into us and we have more inflammation in our bodies. And when we have more inflammation in our bodies, that contributes to stress. So just something else to consider when you're going and buying and doing research on what you should and should be not eating in terms of helping your moods. Just something you might want to take into consideration, guys. So one last little note I want to add to this food topic, because it's so important and it can make a huge difference in, coping with having anxiety, is to really be your own researcher. You guys really want to be researching and investigating where your stuff's not only where it's coming from, but also knowing, like, have there been hormones added to it, have there been pesticides used on it, because all these things, all this stuff affects us hormonally. And when we have our hormones being affected by what we're consuming, that will put a lot of extra stress on our bodies, which we clearly don't need if we're already dealing with anxiety. It'll just raise our stress levels up and make us feel even more susceptible to feeling more anxious. So just a little extra something you all might want to consider when you are doing your groceries and when you're eating out and just anything that you're consuming. Make sure you're really doing your due diligence to think and find out what is the source. All right, another game-changing habit that has literally allowed me to naturally cope with my anxiety is something you guys have often heard me refer to as the medication for the soul, which is meditation. And I will add in here deep breathing as part of that meditation routine. And I know I mentioned earlier, the breathing, really, I would highly suggest getting into a deep breathing practice every single day, even if it's for a few minutes, because this is the thing, guys. Breath is our life, right? If we're not breathing, we're not living. And so because it's such an important, element, we need oxygen to think properly. We need oxygen to be flowing so that we can live optimally and for our physical body to be operating in its highest and best state. So I would highly suggest, even if you start with, say, a few minutes in the morning and a few minutes at night. Also, the thing with breathing and getting into like that meditative state of being is that there's two things that are going to happen. When you start to feel your anxious thoughts coming on, one, you'll be able to turn to that as a, healthy practice to start breathing yourself through feeling that onset of your anxious, thoughts coming on. And I do this all the time. Like if I feel like I'm becoming more and more stressed and I kind of feel that wave start to roll in, then I can turn to my breathing and really tune into myself and just take a nice few deep breaths and literally feel like that stress kind of wave come and then naturally take its course and flow out from my body. The other thing about meditation is that it literally allows us to train our brain. So when you, again, it's not, and I know I said earlier, it's not, you can't outthink, anxiety. You can't outthink it. You have to feel it in order to heal it. But when it comes to meditation, it can really just help you to slow down the process, and you don't have to go into your mind with it so much as it'll help you to just get your brain into a more receptive, a more responsive state than automatically reacting. And that can really honestly have a positive impact, not just on having anxiety, but just in every area of your life, and really help you deal with those triggers that come up for you sometimes during the course of a day. All right, this next one is one of my faves, and I can't take full credit. Dr. Russ, as you guys have heard me talk about before, Dr. Russ is a friend, and he's also an expert on anxiety, having suffered himself. I'll put a link to Dr. Russ's website below, because he does have some really cool free resources for you guys out there in terms of like, I know he has a free meditation, I believe, and just a really cool person to follow on social media in terms of getting some good, solid information on anxiety in general. And one of the practices that he shared during our first interview on my podcast, Pave Your Paradise podcast, is a really simple technique you can use that I actually started doing because I was finding at times that I was having anxiety the first, kind of when I would first wake up. It was almost like I'd wake up, open my eyes, and I'd have this onset of like thoughts just rushing through my head. And he said, you know what, Mandy, here's a really simple thing that you can do, because he had the same experience, and it's all about sharing and caring, right? Sharing is caring. So he shared this activity with me that I love, and I'm going to share with you guys now. I'm so happy I can do this and share this little positive secret with you. So whenever you're starting to feel like you're having the anxious thoughts come on, what you guys can do is practice present moment awareness by doing the following. You can take your hand, place it on your heart, close your eyes, and literally just say to yourself, I am here and I am safe. Again, this is why this is so effective, because you're literally taking your hand, you are placing it on your body, which first of all taps you into an automatic present moment because you are feeling your physical body in the moment. So you place your hand on your heart and you say to yourself calmly while closing your eyes, and let's practice the deep breathing, might as well, right? All together. I am safe and I am here. I am here and I am safe. Honestly, y'all, just saying this with you right now, sharing it, my energy is so stress lowered. It's like, I can't tell you how effective this therapy method has been for me, at least. And it's so simple. You can do this anytime. It doesn't have to be first thing in the morning. It could literally be, maybe you're sitting at your desk and you're having one of these like freak out moments and you're feeling that wave come on. You can take your hand at any time, at any moment, place it on your heart, and do the following affirmation that I just shared with you guys. So that's one really simple, easy way that you can try to bring yourself back to present moment and not be worried about the future or be so, dead ridden, worried about something that's happened in your past. All right, the next tip is one that really is near and dear to my heart, and I honestly thank God every day for this, because having a really loving and supportive community who understands what you're dealing with is imperative, in my opinion, in helping you cope with having anxiety. Now, when I say community, I don't mean that it has to be an extensive, tons of people. This could just be like, a few people that you can count on your hand that you can really turn to share and open up with and communicate with and talk to, either who also suffer or are dealing with anxiety themselves, or just people that are your cheerleaders, people who, it could be your partner. It's really cool if you can share that with somebody who also experiences, suffering from the same things, so you guys can help each other and learn from one another and grow together through it. It could be your friends, it could be, relatives and loved ones who just understand what you, and maybe they might not personally understand, but people who are understanding of what it is that you're dealing with. Maybe these are people who care enough to actually educate themselves and know that certain things trigger you, and there are times when you might need them to be there for you if you're dealing with some major anxiety or major triggers that are coming up for you. It's your people, right? The people that care about you, who love you and will not judge you when you are going through, some of these symptoms that I've expressed in this episode today. Ultimately, these are people who you can turn to when you might just need a loving pick-me-up. And I don't care if you have anxiety or not. I think it's important to have a really loving, supportive tribe regardless. Because let's be real, guys. Connection is, the forefront of what we as humans are made to do. We're made to connect. And it's really important to have those amazing superstars in your life who you can connect with. Especially, it's not about the people who are going to be there for you during all the happy, perfect, which doesn't even exist, but those happy up times. It's about the people who you can count on to be there for you when you're feeling your lowest, when you're feeling, maybe sad or depressed, or, as this episode is about, anxious or having anxiety or having fears come up. Like, I can count on more than two hands people that I can literally call at any time, who are people who I can just openly share with, who I can be vulnerable with, who will understand and just be a loving support system for me. And I would highly invite y'all, if you do have some people like that, amazing. You are so incredibly blessed to have those people. Be grateful for them. Please always give thanks for amazing people who are in your life. And if you're feeling that you're not surrounded by people like that, then I would highly suggest reaching out to people, either online or in the community, reaching out to maybe a mental health association in your community who can connect you with others who might be suffering from the same things, or who, might just have supportive kind of groups. And the other thing that obviously I want to mention to you guys is I do have an online community. It's free to join. I have a Facebook group from my podcast that I originally started called Pave Your Paradise Podcast, and you can just, look it up on Facebook. I would be so happy to have you guys join in on my High Vibes Nation community, vibe with other people. It is just loving support in that community. So I'm going to put the link for that below if you guys want to join in on all the love. It's, based around people who are not going to be judgmental. It's all people who are dealing with stuff on their own, but as a collective, we are so consciously connected together in uplifting one another and cheering each other on. So I'd be so happy to have you guys as part of my online community as well. All right, so one big symptom that I've dealt with in terms of having anxiety is, and I'm gonna keep it super real with you guys, there are certain tasks that come up, and I know this is part of me also having ADHD, but there are definitely certain things or tasks that come up that I honestly dread, and the thought of doing the task in itself starts to make me feel really anxious. And so what I've learned to do, and one thing that has really, really helped me, is taking action. And I don't just mean taking action like thinking about it or talking about taking action. Like, you literally, in my experience, it's about taking bold action. Now, sometimes even the thought of, and this is where this gets, I want to explain it to y'all who don't deal with this, but I'm sure some of you can relate, even if you don't have anxiety, where let's take, for example, taxes. I know taxes for me is something literally I put off until the last minute because I literally cannot stand doing them. The thought of it just makes me anxious thinking about it. It's like so monotonous for my type of personality. So what I've learned to do in these kind of situations that some of you might be able to relate to is sometimes, like, I know what I need to do. I know that I need to add things up. I know that I need to keep track of things. I know, like, the logic part of doing taxes, for this example, is not what scares me or makes me fearful, or even, like, it's not so much that. It's the actual taking action of the action that sometimes can bring the anxiety on in itself. And I know this sounds probably funny to some of y'all, but that's literally what goes through my head when I even start thinking about it. I'm like, okay, I literally need to just, in these cases, guys, what you need to do, and the reason why I bring all this up, is baby steps. I can't say that enough. Sometimes when you're dealing with anxiety, even if, or I'll give another example, like, something that's come up for me is maybe I want to buy some new pieces of furniture for a room. And, whether it's taxes or buying new furniture or whatever the thing is, usually it entails a process, right? Like, you don't just go from 0 to 180 of having this stuff done. It takes like steps to get there. So with taxes, obviously, it's like you keeping track of things and you making, lists of things and, adding things up and then contacting, an accountant and, discussing it with them and then having that whole process take its course. So let's dumb it even down further. So something like, say, buying some new furniture. Maybe you want to buy some new furniture, which is a great goal to have. And from the initial imprint or, initial step of having to look for furniture to the end result of having your furniture in your room and it being built and already purchased and all of that great stuff, sometimes that whole process in itself, just thinking about it, can make you stressed out. So what I'm going to invite you guys to do out there, if that's the case where you're just feeling stressed about all the steps from, 0 or A all the way to the end result or Z, what you might want to try doing is write down the first few steps that it would take for you to get from where you are to where you want to be. From there, you can then continue and start to chip away at that list. Because I know for myself, sometimes the thought of even doing something can psych me out enough from sometimes the stress that's entailed in thinking about it that I'm like, I don't even start it. So if you are a procrastinator out there, this might be a way for you to actually get more done and not have to turn to other methods or just not do things that you want in your life, which sucks, right? That sucks when you don't get to do things because of your stress. So there's my tip for helping y'all when it comes to actually just that snowball effect of the anxious thoughts coming on. Start by taking a bold action, even if it's just incremental baby steps. All right, how are you guys doing out there? Are you still with me? Comment below, actually. I'd love to hear if you are dealing with anxiety right now. Put a comment below and let me know if you are, because I'm always curious to see what you guys are dealing with out there as well. And that being said, my next tip is one that you guys have heard me talk about on the episodes before, which is journaling. So journaling can be beneficial for lots of reasons, but when it comes to anxiety, I have found that journaling, my experimentation actually with techniques, as well as different moods that I have and different triggers, has been really fundamental in allowing me to, self-diagnose and assess what things need to be in my life and what things I might want to avoid in order to combat my anxiety. It also helps you to track your progress in terms of how you're doing and constantly making you aware of checking in with yourself. Usually, as I've said, on the daily, I like to journal daily. And this is the thing, guys, anxiety does not have to be a death sentence. It could just be part of your journey. But the difference is whether or not you're able to get a handle on it between those two. And speaking of triggers, the next technique is to be aware of what those triggers typically are for yourself. So here's the thing, when you know what your triggers are, you're better able to equip yourself with better coping strategies. So let's give an example that a lot of people, some of you even watching might deal with, which is social anxiety. So some examples of coping strategies for dealing with social anxiety might be, if you have to, say, do a presentation, or you have to attend an event, or you have to be around a lot of people, what you might do is develop a routine to replace the usual, stressing yourself out to the point of having a panic attack or an anxiety attack, and really just learn to have a little routine you can turn to in those moments. Because a lot of times, and I know in my experience, having, I've had social anxiety before, as much as you guys might actually be like, whoa, as social as I am, and, as much of a social butterfly as I can be and extroverted at times, by nature, I truly am an introvert. And because of that, there have been times in my life when I definitely felt that onset of social anxiety before I had to go to an event or a really, public place. And so what I've learned to do that's helped is to almost have a go-to routine of, getting into present moment, tapping into my physical body so that I'm fully here in this moment. And what works for me also is visualization technique. So I literally picture myself having an amazing time wherever I'm going. I picture myself being so grateful that I get to go to, whatever it is that I'm attending, that I'm grateful for the memories I'm going to make and the feelings I'm going to experience that are so positive. Tapping into that gratitude again, which I've mentioned to you guys a bunch of times on these videos. Tapping into your gratitude state not only elevates your energy and your mood and your vibration, but it really does allow you to try to focus on the goodness that can come rather than focus on, the sensation of being so anxious and stressed out about stuff. So that is one way that you guys can try at home to combat some of these situations that are coming up, at least with social anxiety. And with anything, it's good to have a little pep talk with yourself. And it goes along with the positive self-talk that I'm such a fan of. But I think it's cool to have an affirmation, and one that I honestly use on the daily, multiple times a day, that really helps me deal with my anxiety as well, is the affirmation, things are always working out for me. Again, guys, things are always working out for me. When I allow myself to fully let that marinate in my body, mind, and spirit, it's almost like an internal breather of okay, I get it. Everything that's coming up for me is all happening for me. And I ultimately know things are always going to work out, so it is okay. All right, if you guys follow me also on social media at Mandy J. Ross, then y'all know how much of a bookworm I am. And one of the biggest ways that I have been able to cope with my anxiety is to really do my own research. Now, there are lots and lots of books available. There's tons of articles online you can read. And I really am just a huge advocate of doing your own due diligence when it comes to any sort of health thing that you might be dealing with, whether that's mental, physical, spiritual, financial, whatever, kind of wealth you want in your life per se. I think it's really important to research and educate yourself. So books are a really easy way to do that. It literally is like educating yourself for free, and there's lots of even ways that you don't even have to pay for books, and I'm not advocating not paying for books, because I think it's really important to also support authors who are writing really amazing materials. So in today's episode, I just want to share with you guys a few books that have helped me to learn more about what it's like to deal with anxiety and mental health issues and conditions, and also books that have helped me to not just learn about them, but actually learn new coping strategies for anxiety. So here are a few that I love. This one is called The Ripple Effect, and I'll put links again to these below so you guys can grab them yourself, because this one has had a really amazing effect on me, just learning how to cope with, healthier habits that have helped, I should say, with my anxiety. So The Ripple Effect. Another one, now this one is more pertaining to ADHD, but Driven to Distraction. Now this one, guys, has really, really helped in terms of, it's not just applicable to ADHD. It has helped me curb some of my anxiety symptoms as well. So that's a great one. And lastly, the last one I want to share with you guys is My Age of Anxiety. This one here, again, the title's pretty obvious, but this one has everything to do with the fear, the hopes, the dread, the search of peace of mind, basically, when you're dealing with anxiety. So those are a few books in terms of anxiety resources and just resources in general. Again, there's so many things that are available in today's day and age to, do the research and really, equip yourself with a toolbox, essentially, of how you can handle your own anxiety. All right, my final tip or technique in terms of dealing with anxiety is to push yourself out of your own comfort zone. Sometimes when you're dealing with anxiety, you literally just have to force yourself to do this. You just have to, because having lived with anxiety for many years, I know how frustrating it can be when you have these feelings of, just total dismay, total disappointment and frustration and sadness and depression sometimes, and just feeling like you can't get yourself out of it. And the thing is, there is always light at the end of the tunnel, and sometimes the only way out is through. You literally have to push yourself through to get to that end of tunnel lightness. The thing about staying in a safety net, because a lot of times when you're dealing with mental health conditions or you're dealing with anxiety, it can be easy to kind of actually do the opposite, where you find a lot of things that you think are going to allow you to live in this safety net or this bubble. But here's the thing, guys, if you're living in a bubble and you're never pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, especially if you have anxiety, you are going to end up missing out on a lot. You're going to end up missing out on a lot of experiences, on a lot of beautiful things that you might want to actually partake in life. And that's not a good way to be living. A lot of times when we have anxiety too, it's a matter of us feeling like we want to do everything possible to not ever feel like we are living out of control, because that's really a lot of times what we're dealing with, is that feeling, that uncertainty of not being in control. But on the other side of that safety net, that bubble that you've put around yourself to never have to push past or through that comfort level, on the other side of that, when you're willing to actually take the risks, take the leaps, and really lean into your fear, there's a life that exists that is so rich and so meaningful and so expansive that is waiting for you to experience. And I really truly believe in my heart of hearts, if you're not taking risks in life, you're not truly living. And if you're allowing your anxiety to debilitate you, you're not really living up to your full potential. And this isn't a harp on, the rest of you who are dealing with this, because I live with it myself. But if you're not proactively trying to figure out how to get a handle over it, you're really just going to end up missing out on a lot in life. And that's going to lead to potentially an even more downward spiral. And I don't want to see that for y'all. And I'm sure y'all watching, if either you're suffering from anxiety or you know someone who is, you don't want that, right? We all want to live our best, highest, healthiest, happiest lives. So we can do this, guys. We can get through to that other side together. Ultimately, you deserve to experience all the blessings that life has to offer. All right, so at the beginning of the video, I told you guys that I'd be making a special announcement, so here it is now. So with everything going on in our world, I feel called more than ever now to help and empower those who are also dealing with anxiety. So I'm making myself personally available to any of y'all out there who are watching. If this video resonates and you want help or you simply just want to talk about it, please reach out. I've put a link below in the video description for a free call, or feel free to DM or message me on social media if you are really wanting to chat about anxiety. There's no obligations, no expectations, and absolutely no judgments. Really coming from my heart, I simply just want to pay it forward for all of the beautiful, loving, and amazing kindness that I have received in my life from people who have been there for me dealing with anxiety. And guys, I would feel so happy to help you to navigate through really this uncharted territory. So on a final loving note, I'm not creating this video for anyone to feel sorry for me, because we all have challenges that we go through, and I certainly am not a victim to my past or present. I'm producing it because I think it's really important for us to always remember that we're all works in progress and that no one is perfect. And the more light of awareness that we bring to it, the more that the stigma behind it will be diminished. And finally, I don't want any of y'all out there who are watching to ever feel like you have to suffer, in silence or alone. So please remember, your history does not determine your destiny. And the scars that you have do not make you any less worthy, capable, or deserving of achieving success. The stories you or others have told you that are holding you back are simply that. They're just stories. And you have the power to change and rewrite them in your favor at any time. While there are ups and downs in my life, there is one constant that remains: my faith and hope. And I believe that you can transform your pain into power to live your purpose. So with that said, I am praying for y'all, for your healing, your inner peace, and that the best is yet to come for you. All right, guys, I feel so thankful to have shared this time together today. I feel really curious to know how y'all are doing out there right now with everything going on, and also how you're staying healthy mentally and emotionally. So comment below and let me and everyone know. And if any of y'all are feeling stuck or want to go deeper in your healing journey and you want to work with me as a coach or sign up for some of my programs, I put links below in the video description for you to do so, and I'd be so happy to help y'all, get healthier and happier out there. Also, if you guys are wanting to support me on this high vibes mission I'm on, including bringing more awareness to anxiety and mental health in general, and even this video you're watching and the other content creation I produce, then I actually do have a Patreon page that is basically essentially somewhat like a Kickstarter, where you're able to make different denominations of donations to help me do so. And there are different rewards that you get for doing so. So I'll put the link for my Patreon below in the video description too. And to all of y'all out there who are already supporting me through that means, I really, really from the bottom of my heart appreciate it, because it's not just supporting me, it's supporting this big vision that I have to help others literally transform and change their lives in a really positive way so that we can all, as a conscious collective in the world, raise our vibrations together. I love hearing from y'all, and I genuinely want to see what amazing work you're creating in the world out there as well. So please do find me. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, I'm on TikTok, I'm on basically every social media platform you can think of under Mandy J. Ross. So find me on those platforms, connect, tag me, hashtag High Vibes Nation as well if y'all want to, and let's just produce amazing high vibes content together and connect on multiple platforms, because together we can all raise each other's vibrations. You guys know the drill. If you liked today's video and you're still watching, chances are you do. So if that's the case, please give it a little thumbs up. Please subscribe to my channel and hit that little notification bell beside subscribe button so that you'll be informed each and every time I upload new videos. And I have lots in my heart, in my mind, and in my soul that I want to produce for you guys. So make sure you do, because I have a lot of cool stuff coming up just for you. On that loving note, thank you so much for joining me for today's video. Please take care of yourself and others out there. Namaste, and as always, I'm wishing y'all a beautiful day.